Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition, I would say, because it's a Tuesday and it's 2:30 p.m. This was usually a Wednesday, 8 p.m. at the end of the day when I'm able to gather all the information and put all this together. And then I realized I need to get this incredible new addition, because actually new addition, someone who is part of the community, or was part of the community in the past and is part of the community again with us. Even through pandemic times, it's a joy to have my guest of today's special conversation with us. Anyway, I had to do it. He had only 2:30 to 3:30 today, Tuesday. And I said, yep, let's jump on it. I have to have him with me. He's an amazing, amazing person. And he's the director of our main museum in Phoenix, Arizona. But before I get to the introduction, before I get all the stuff that I do usually, of course, I have to take you guys through a little talk about what is going to happen tomorrow night, which is the regular night. As you know, today is just this conversation with this incredible addition. So this is what usually happens. So these are special broadcasts because these people have difficult schedules. So I took a break during my daytime job, and then I'm talking to these wonderful people. I mean, we're all on Zoom calls. We're all doing all sorts of stuff online. So why not? So today we have Dr. I like to call, because he's a PhD, Dr. Tim Rodgers from PhxArt Museum. He's the current director and CEO since July 1st. And we're going to talk to him for an hour. And then on October 22nd, we're going to talk to Sheena Adams from Fashion Group International, FGI, from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. She's going to take over the conversation, by the way, because she's going to be interviewing me. So that's great. But I want to also show you that you can watch all these episodes on a repeat on my blog or on my YouTube channel. You go to my blog, What Would Oscar Do? And you will find all the people that we talked to. Carol Poor from Friends of Phoenix Public Art, which I'm going to give you an update in a minute. Nayon Iovino from Arizona Ballet. Jennifer McCabe from Smoka. Joe Spector from Arizona Opera. Letitia Fry. We all love Letitia Fry. She does so much for the community. And then Paula Taylor from Arizona Theater Company. So you can see these broadcasts when it comes and goes live on my blog. It's just a way to file stuff, that's kind of like where I put all the stuff. But tomorrow night, we have an incredible new work that I'm working on, something that I'm doing with the Friends of Phoenix Public Art. So this is a campaign that it was launched yesterday, and is to create awareness and education around public art. And the name is Love It. And you know what? I love it. This is great. This is to support our local public art. And tomorrow night, we're going to have, at the beginning of the show, the person who came up with the idea and the logo and the design. And of course, we're going to have Dr. Carol Poor with us tomorrow. So anyway, a long conversation, a lot of previews. This is getting like a full-time job now. I do this during the weekend, but I don't care. I need to talk to the community, and I want to find out what's going on. So this is my guest today. Check it out. So let's welcome our guest today, Dr. Tim Rodgers. Hello, Dr. Rodgers.
Hello, Oscar. Nice to see you
I,
again.
nice to see you again. When was the last time that we saw each other face to face?
Gosh, I've been gone for about 6 years, and so I was in Miami Beach, longing for your visit, but I'm afraid that didn't materialize. And so I had to come back, Oscar. I had to come back to Phoenix just so I could see you.
Well, we tried. Remember that we tried to make that visit happen when we were in Miami with my hubby, and then we tried, but it didn't happen. But I'm very happy that you're back. Very glad that you're back, and you're coming as the CEO and director of the Phoenix Art Museum. What a joy for this town!
Well, it's a pleasure and a privilege for me. I really was surprised to be offered this position. It wasn't something I expected, but it does kind of make sense in the story of my life, which you saw little bits of just a moment ago, but I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about as we get into our discussion.
Yes, so this is basically the way that I frame this 1 hour talk is a lot about you and a lot about what you do and the organization that you represent in the community. You moved here back to Phoenix July 1st. That was just like when everything was happening. How was to move from Miami down here?
It was, I think, one could argue that it was the worst reintroduction to a city that was humanly possible. So it's been the hottest summer on record.
Yep.
We were basically homeless, and so we were in temporary housing for 3 months. It was a pandemic. We couldn't see my relatives. My family lives here in the Valley. My dad is 81, and so he's vulnerable. So we couldn't see my relatives. My brother also has health issues, so I haven't seen him since I've returned. And then we wanted to buy a house. We didn't want to rent. And the market we thought would be, pretty easy. I mean, who's moving during the pandemic, right? But oh no, just the opposite happened. It's like the hottest real estate market out there. And so we were in heavy competition with other people in masks. And there's nothing more frightening than a whole group of people in masks that are homeless. And so we wanted a house, and it was not easy. So it's been a real challenge.
But altogether, it's just like it's part of the process of coming back. It's part of the process of the moment in time. Not an easy transfer, I would say. And then you were coming from a hotspot to another hotspot, right?
Exactly. And then, like you, we haven't talked about this, Oscar, but I also was very, very sick in February. So I was sick for about a month with a severe case of pneumonia. And while I didn't quite have to go to the hospital, I was 1 day away from going on to oxygen. And so I might have had COVID. I may not. It was very early. It would have been the beginning of February. In hindsight, I probably did have it. But I wasn't tested for it because they weren't testing at that time. And so I had been very sick and then needed to turn around and kind of pack and get on the road and figure out, how it is that we were going to come to Phoenix. And so it was a frightening time. We ultimately decided to get on a plane and take the dog on the plane and just fly out here. And then everything else arrived later. Some of it earlier, and then some of it more recently when we found a house. And so we've been in the process of moving for over 3 months now, probably more like 4 or 5 months.
So you see things that I am not aware, we're unaware of how is everybody doing and things that are happening. I mean, for all that I know, you moved here and the museum reopened October 1st for members, and I didn't know all this information. I was sick, as well as I was telling you,
Right.
at the beginning of March, and then I tested negative for COVID, but the doctors at Banner, they think that I had it. I was sick for 3 months. So good that we're here. I have symptoms. We can go on a call later on and say, are you feeling this? Am I feeling that? We don't want to bore people with that information, but I'm very happy that you're here. So we have a tradition on this podcast that I'm decided to start 6, 7 episodes ago. And you know that I'm an architect. You know that I have a master's in interior architecture, and I work for a company that does interior architecture and architecture itself throughout the world. And I'm writing a paper, and the paper dives into many levels of comfort, from design to what we know of COVID to how do we feel about our environments. So I'm going to run a option A and option B in terms of design of a very famous lobby of a hotel in Paris, of 2 hotels in Paris. And I would like to know your answer and why. So check this out. Just like that. It's a research paper, so I'm taking notes. So go ahead. Tell me, doctor.
Well, both of them are lovely. I do want to start with that. You have a very difficult choice in front of me, but I would choose A.
A, the Plaza Athénée in Paris.
Exactly.
And then may I ask the reason why?
I really appreciated the classical architecture, and I like that mixed with the kind of soft contemporary furnishings that were in that space. I also like the palette, which was, these kind of soft, muted tones. It felt very kind of comforting, where the black and white space, while very dramatic, and normally I probably would have chosen that one in a different time, it also has a certain kind of harshness to it. And so I thought if I were going to sit somewhere and be comfortable and enjoy myself, it would be A.
Correct. So this is your option.
Yes.
And then, surprisingly enough, a lot of people within the world of arts, I cannot tell you the results yet because I don't have them, but let's say A is winning.
A is winning. Okay.
A is winning. So that opens the next question, is knowing what we know today as a professor of history of art, are we looking back knowing that we are going through this very difficult time? Are we looking back to comfort?
I think so. I think that all of us who have gone through this situation and have really had to deal with the aftermath of illness and death, we are definitely looking for comfort. I think we're in a very anxious time, and I think we're all feeling it. People are stressed. I see it all around me. And so to put yourself into an environment that you find comforting, I think is really important.
And then it is a part of our today's conversation is how are we going to get out of this one? How we are going to enjoy the spaces that we used to enjoy, and how do we safely get back to do things without getting infected? And I know that that's what the PhxArt Museum is doing. I just said that October 1st you guys open. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. We have many safety protocols in place, and for those people who would like to visit us, it's important that they understand this. So all of us here on the staff are tested every day, and we have our temperature taken. As a matter of fact, I took this off for the interview, but I had a sticker which indicates to all of the staff that my temperature was acceptable and I was able to come into work. We all wear masks here. I'm not wearing one now because my office is closed, but here's my mask. And I have many other options, color coordinated if necessary. Um, and so that's where we start. We also regularly report to our human resources if any of us are having any issues or difficulties. And so the staff is taking precautions. The public, we also ask to take precautions, and so they are required to wear a mask. We are trying to have as little contact as possible in terms of the exchange of money. We're asking people to buy their tickets online, to make reservations. They can still purchase tickets if necessary, but we are asking them to do it online if possible. If they do have interaction, it is at a distance, and it's usually protected by a plexiglass barrier. In terms of our cleaning rituals, I won't go into all of the elaborate details, but there's a number of new products out there that we're using, including we repainted high-touch areas such as bathrooms with a germ-resistant paint. And so before anybody ever came back into the building, we had already painted a lot of our spaces so that people would have that added layer of protection. Of course, we're limiting the number of people into the building, 600 per day. And we haven't come close to that. We didn't expect to. Our building is so large that we're able to spread people out in a fairly natural way. But if there is crowding, then the gallery attendants will step up and ask people to make sure that they're minding their space. And so, yes, as many precautions as possible.
So basically, if you go back to the PhxArt Museum, this is the lobby before COVID. I would assume right now you will find a PhxArt Museum that is COVID friendly the best they can. So there will be partitions in front of the cashiers or the registrar, and there will be people with masks. Are you guys supplying masks as well?
Yes. So a few people do come to the museum without masks, and so we have a supply of masks and we give them out for free. And so if anybody forgot one, and that happens, it's happened to me, they will give you one when you come in. There's also hand sanitizers when you walk in. And then there are also spots on the floor that we've applied so that you maintain your social distance in case there is a line. And we also have barricades up, and so that you kind of mind the queue, as they would say in England, and you don't get too close to one another. And so, yes, all kinds of precautions in that area.
So the museum as we know it, and by the way, is this installation still on?
Oh, I wish. That's such a beautiful installation. That was part of the Halley collection. And so when we showed the Halley collection of Latin American art, this was in this space, kind of going down to the John Morel wall. And it's not there, but we do have another installation, ironically enough or not, it's from the Halley collection as well. We borrowed it. And so when you come in, you'll see another piece from their collection.
So you're describing it so well that I feel, first of all, safe to go and excited to go because there's good things to see. And by the way, the restaurant is also open under CDC guidelines, correct?
It is. It's open. Of course, you can't sit at every table because we want to make sure that people are watching their distance. And you can sit outside. And, for those of us who have been required to eat at restaurants, remember I was kind of homeless. And so I was eating at restaurants more frequently, I think, than sometimes I was comfortable. But I was always choosing to sit outside, of course, wearing a mask and being distant from others in order to kind of add another layer of precaution. There is no perfectly safe space, and we all know that, but I think that we are trying to create one that is as reasonable and as comfortable for people as possible.
So now we know that the museum is open for members only. That was October 1st.
Correct.
When is the museum open for the rest of us?
So October 14th to the general public, and so we welcome people. We do have slightly different hours, and I'm going to look at a note to make sure I get this right. We're now Wednesday through Friday, and we open at 10, but from 10 to 11, we're asking that hour be only for senior citizens. Yet another way that we're trying to create precautions for people. And so 10 to 11, senior citizens, and then 11 to 7, we're open to the general public. On Saturday and Sunday, we're open 10 to 6. So what we did is we pushed our hours a little bit later so that those people who are working can enjoy coming to the museum after work. We thought we would experiment and to see whether or not that was popular.
Okay, and then which is fantastic because you have an organized set of rules to make the museum work and for us to enjoy the museum. And I heard
Exactly.
that you take reservations as well. You go online and that's how you do your reservation, correct?
Right, correct. But it's not timed entry. I know that some museums, and I
Oh.
have been to a few museums in the United States, they've been timing entry. But that's usually because, and this happened when I was in Flagstaff, I went to a museum there.
Mhm.
But those are usually very small institutions and they don't have a lot of space. We have over 300,000 square feet at this museum. I mean, you know, the PhxArt Museum is huge. And so we really weren't so much afraid of that. What we did need to do, though, is watch the number of people that were in the building at any one time. And so that's the number we're watching.
So this is incredible. I mean, expect no less from our main museum in Phoenix. Have the guidelines in place, have a way to still be open and reach out to the community. I heard that, or heard no, I read that the museum has a 26 million endowment. That's how big it is. Correct?
Right. That is correct. And while that is a lot of money, and as an individual, I would be more than happy to have a $26 million endowment behind me. The PhxArt Museum is a very large institution. To put it into perspective, before all of the COVID happened to us, we were spending about $250,000 every week. And that's kind of our operating cost in order to keep the building open. You can just imagine, you can take a simple thing like air conditioning, what that must cost for 300,000 square feet. And then the people who are required in order to kind of maintain security and to help all of our guests. It is an immense enterprise and a very expensive one.
Well, I am very appreciative for you to break all these down because I wanted to talk to you about first the museum. What is the museum doing? Because there is a line connecting that museum open with the economy and the finances of the museum, the numbers, pretty much. That's what
Right.
I'm trying to go. How big is the staff currently?
And so we are under 100 now.
Mhm.
And so there were layoffs and furloughs that happened before I came here. And I think that many people know about that. And unfortunately, some of the audience members might have experienced that as well personally.
Mhm.
It is something that all nonprofits have had to really contend with. And I would say, and you can kind of gauge this by other conversations you're having with other nonprofit leaders, that we're opening a little bit later than some of the other institutions here in the Valley of the Sun. In other words, the Heard Museum opened much earlier. I think they were one of the first, and we might be one of the later ones. You know, because like you, Oscar, I was sick. I was very sick. There was a moment where I turned to my husband and said, you know, just so you understand, the will is in the second drawer. I mean, I was not sure about this. And so when you face that kind of moment, you want to take extra precautions. I also was in Miami Beach, and we had that early episode with all of the spring break students
Yep.
and the outbreaks that occurred because of that. So we were locked down hard, like really hard. I was living right on the beach. So, I mean, it was tight and nobody was going anywhere. And so I wanted to make sure that we erred on the side of caution. And so I really prioritized that over some of the other considerations.
Uh,
It's a costly decision, but I think it was the right one.
I think it's pertinent to take a quick break here and say that when it's about humanity and it's about the health of all of us, that's a good precaution.
I think
Like
so.
you, I was very sick and I was in the hospital on an ER room, and I texted my husband. I think we video call, and I said, by the way, I don't know what is going to happen, but I cannot talk because I'm going to get oxygen on. The nurse
Yeah.
will tell you what is going to happen. So thank you for taking the precautions, and thank you for walking us through the decision making to where we are today.
Yeah.
But I know that I love Phoenix Art Museum. My early days walking up and down Central to go to the Burton By Library made me stop at the museum many times. And I want to talk to you about which one is your favorite piece of art at the museum. And then a little birdie, your assistant, Elizabeth, shout out to Elizabeth. She was with me yesterday trying to figure out the computer, as she says. She pointed out that this is your favorite piece of art at the museum. So, doctor, I want to know the reason why, and it brings me back somehow to the comfort level, or to the level of comfort of your decision A. So can you walk us through the reason why this is your favorite piece in the museum?
Sure. You know, when people ask you this question, and I get asked this question a lot, no matter what museum I'm at, and when I was a professor, students would ask me quite often, what's your favorite piece? And it's really hard. I mean, I know everyone says that, but it is truly hard because I like so much art, and from such a wide array of times and cultures and places. And so I selected this work, though, because I have a personal connection to it. This is the first work that I ever wrote a paper, an art history paper on. And that was way back when I was an undergraduate student at Arizona State University. And I had my first art history class. It was a survey class with a professor, Claudia Brown, Dr. Claudia Brown, who was also the curator of Asian art here at the PhxArt Museum. And our assignment was to come to the PhxArt Museum and select one work and write a paper about it. And this is the work that I selected. And so I wrote my very first art history paper on this incredibly beautiful pastel. And that's an important thing to keep in mind when you're looking at this work of art, that it's a pastel, not an oil painting, which presents so many other technical problems and issues for an artist. But this is really quite a remarkable piece. And so this is a paper that I wrote about this particular work. Now, I have to say it wasn't a particularly good paper. Claudia, she will not remember this. She's had hundreds and thousands of students over the years, but I think she wrote that my writing, I needed to tone down the purple prose. I think that was her phrase. I wrote a highly romanticized version. As you can see, this work of art kind of lends itself to storytelling, all about her sadness and this kind of drooping rose that she has in her hand. And the fact that she's dressed in white, and she is white, extremely pale. It almost looks like she is a ghost and very ethereal, more deathly than virginal. And so I kind of went with that.
Okay, did you pass at least? Was it good? A good turn?
I did pass. And Claudia was very kind and encouraged me to continue to take art history classes. And so I did, and I ultimately became an art history major. And I worked with her husband, who was on the faculty at that time. He is no longer alive, but Dr. Donald Rabner. And so he was one of my advisors and encouraged me to continue in the field.
So this is so great that I'm able to talk to you about this piece. By the way, if you guys are curious about where to find the piece, the museum has the collection online, and you can go to the website and then find information about this piece. Correct me if I'm wrong, or if you can walk me quickly on that information. You
Yes.
can access to the collection via the internet?
Yes. And so I recently just looked this up myself to see how this would work. If you just type in the White Rose, William Merritt Chase, PhxArt Museum, it will come up. If you can type in Miss Jessup, William Merritt Chase, the PhxArt Museum, it'll come. And so it comes up under a number of different kind of keywords. But the most important would be the name of the artist, William Merritt Chase, and then the title, The White Rose, or A Portrait of Miss Jessup.
And by the way, that's how I found the piece. I found the piece itself and the picture that I just showed, but I just wanted to see more about it and read about it, and you describe it beautifully. I think every time that I hear you speaking about the world of arts, I'm just like, talk more. I want to hear more. It is incredible to see a professor giving us a breakdown of a piece of art, because most of us like the beauty or see the beauty. I knew it was a pastel, but I can imagine all the little intricate pieces for an artist to create such a perfection with something that is it's very ethereal. It's just basically a dust once you put
Exactly.
it on the paper. So I want to move this conversation along, to talk about yourself. The presentation walk us through that some of the places you went to school. You went to ASU, Brown University, and Santa Fe College. I could not find, where are you from? I thought you were from here, but I'm not. I'm wrong.
Yeah. No. So I grew up in the Midwest. I was born in Iowa, but my family, because my dad was in management with Montgomery Wards, and so they moved us about every 2 years, sometimes more frequently. And so I lived in Wisconsin, but primarily I lived in North Dakota. And so I was going to high school in North Dakota and was graduating and just entered college in Iowa when my parents decided to move to Arizona. Like most wise people in North Dakota, they got tired of the cold and decided to move somewhere warmer. And because they were moving to Arizona, I decided that sounded like a good idea. So I moved to Arizona too. And at that point, I would have been about 1920, right on that edge. And so I arrived here in Arizona, the first time I'd ever been here, and started to make it a home.
To which, by the way, I have a quick surprise for you, because I found some very cool pictures. Check this out. Totally
Yes.
GQ. So GQ of you.
I had hair, and that was a few pounds ago, Oscar.
So good to see people's pictures from the past. I love to dig on people's web pages and stuff, or talk to friends and find a little bit more about themselves in the past. So we saw that picture of you, very dapper, and I just always ask the same question. Given to where you are today, what can you tell to that 18, 19 years old guy that is trying to face the world with the world of arts as a shield?
Yeah. Well, to be quite honest, I was more concerned about my hair at that point and whether or not it was in place. I would say to my former self, lay off the hairspray, because it probably affected my lungs. So, you're much more profound than I am, Oscar.
That's the idea, but you just take me into this spin that I just don't know how to get back where I was. So I always, because what happens is that people are watching, or the audience watching, there are kids watching, and there are teenagers watching, or people that want to do a change of their career, and they say, you know what, I'm going to become an artist, even through a pandemic. I'm going to get all my funds, sell the house, whatever, and I'm just going to live my life to the fullest. Which, by the way, the world of art is, it's not very easy until through years you walk through it. But what can you tell to that Tim Rodgers with hair and hairspray?
So just a little backstory to explain at least one of those pictures. So I moved here, as I said, I transferred from a college in Iowa, and I moved in with my parents again, and I wasn't a resident of Arizona. And so I wanted to go to ASU, but it was much less expensive to go to Arizona State University if you were a resident. So I decided I needed to take a year off, and my family was fine with that as long as I got a job. And I thought that was my moment to explore two things that I thought I might be interested in. One was acting, and that really was what I wanted to pursue. And so I took acting classes, but the acting classes were at a modeling agency. And so they were like, well, maybe you should have photos taken. And my mother had been a model. And so anyway, I had photos taken, and I was in one fashion show in which I accidentally ran into the female model and she kind of fell. So it was the end of my illustrious modeling career. And the acting I was more serious about, but at the time, to be quite honest, I was just coming to terms with my sexuality. I was recognizing that I was gay, but more importantly, I was recognizing that other people perceived me to be gay. And so that had been the case throughout my life. Other people kind of seemed to have a head start on knowing my sexuality before I did. And so when I was that age, I started to get concerned that if I was going to be an actor, what kind of parts would I get and how would I be perceived? And I wasn't really good at kind of covering the way some people are. And so I didn't want to. I mean, that was really a very early realization that it's like that was not the kind of life that I wanted. I didn't want to pretend and cover all of the time. And so I spoke with my acting teacher pretty bluntly about it. And he gave me some words of advice, but basically it was, kind of man up and cover up. And I was like, well, that's just not going to work. So I decided that acting wasn't going to do it. And I wanted then to look at art. I had been thinking that I was going to go to law school and be a lawyer, and I wasn't really happy with that decision. It was not that interesting to me, but art was, and so I wanted to explore that. So you can see I was exploring and kind of taking different paths as a young person, and I was pretty daring in that regard. I would take risk and I would pursue different options and try to give myself room to think creatively about what I wanted to do. I was very clear, though, that I needed an education in order to pursue any of these things. So I knew I'd go back to school, which I did, and was then a studio art and an art history major. So I was a painter as well before I really became serious about art history.
So this is a fantastic story, and I just thank you for opening that part of your life, which I think it's like all of us. One day you talk to someone who is openly gay, like myself, my husband. We all have our stories of how we became who we are and how we had to basically face that fear and be able to use our talent to become to who we are and basically move forward in life. I'm sure those kids watching and those teenagers watching or adults that haven't confronted themselves with this will learn from this. So thank you very much for that. I wanted the next part of all these is a conversation back to the museum. I know that every year we have an annual gala, a celebration. This is the 60th anniversary of the museum, and last year we celebrated this with a party in the garden that it was so well attended, and it was just incredibly beautifully put together by the chairwomen that put this event together. These are some pictures from last year's event. Look, people without masks are so close together. How dare them? So these are pictures from last year from the event. So look, Billy Joe Herberger and Doris on. Yeah, shout out to Billy Joe Herberger and Joe. They're watching. I have to have her.
Exactly. And there's Doris on. Hi, Doris.
Doris on. My God, you cannot go wrong with someone like her. And all the supporters, the Coens and the Portugals. So my question to you is, this looks so far back in time. So I know that we have to have these events to raise funds for the museum, for the institutions. What are you guys planning? What is the museum planning in order to have these events to continue raising funds for the museum?
So we have made some immediate decisions, and then we are postponing some other decisions. So I can talk to you about our thinking. So the first thing we did is we moved all of our fundraisers, our two important fundraisers, into the spring, about as late as we could in the social calendar. And so we have given ourselves a little bit more time. We did cancel one fundraiser that we normally would have done in December or January. And so we have two major fundraisers that are still on the books. We're under a lot of discussion with our board and community members and others about whether or not it is wise for us to be putting the time and effort into doing something virtually, doing a virtual in-person hybrid, or simply to thank everybody for their support over the years, and we'll see you next fiscal year, and not do a fundraiser at all. By doing that, of course, as you've indicated, it has all kinds of financial implications. But I also have been learning from other institutions that virtual fundraisers and galas are getting to be a little tiresome for people as well. And all of us are spending a great deal of time on the computer and on Zoom, and it's not the best format for really having a lot of fun with people. Part of the gala experience is not even so much about the money, it's about the community, that you are interacting with your friends, basically. And not having that is really making us have second thoughts about the galas and the fundraisers.
So all this is right now in conversations with the board and the committee members.
Exactly.
I know that I was just enlisted to be, of course, part of one of those. I get all these questions or asked all the time, which I appreciate from the community. And trust me, the support has to be there, because the museum depends on the support, our support. And I understand that that's a fine line between, like you said, trying to put an event together that is going to cost a certain amount of money and not having a return.
Exactly. If people are really thinking about, and I hope they are, how they can support nonprofit institutions right now, and I'm not just talking about the PhxArt Museum, but all nonprofit institutions. For those that have membership programs, become a member. If you are a member, move up your membership. And if you're capable, be at a higher level, just because you want to support the institution. It's immediate, it's effective, and it does give you a certain entree to that institution. But basically, it's just an acknowledgement that we want you here after the pandemic. And that's what needs to happen. Because if you want these institutions to be around after the pandemic's over, then you really do have to reach out and support if you're capable of doing so. I completely recognize that many people aren't. And so we understand that situation too.
So I'm putting the link down below. It's running on that ticker for the audience to know where they can go and then perhaps plan their visit. I'm sure there's a menu. Actually, I saw it. There's a menu or a button that you can see what the guidelines are, and then you can make your reservation and also become a member. What is the minimum membership amount do you have?
I believe it's around $50, but I do want to point out, because I didn't mention it earlier, that on Wednesdays from 3 to 7, we are free to the public. I think that's really important that people know that, because as I said, we do recognize that many people are really suffering right now, not only with their health, but also with their finances. And we appreciate that situation, but we want them to come to the museum and really enjoy themselves and kind of get outside of their ordinary lives, which could be very stressful right now.
Yeah. Just when I came here, my first days in town, I took advantage of the free days of the museum. And it was a joy for me to be in front of world-class art in a city like Phoenix. So that's a big thank you from the past to today, myself, to the museum, because I was one of those people that used the museum on Wednesdays when it was free, because at that time I didn't have funds to pay an admission ticket. So
exactly.
Yep. So I am very thankful to the museum and the board for that. So to close, because I know we're on 3:15, you have to go. You have a lot of a number of things to do for what I see here. I would love to get into numbers and all this, but yeah, it's a Tuesday at 2:30 to talk to Oscar. Why not? I want to run this wonderful video that is on the website as an opening and as a reminder to the community that the museum is open, that you can become a member, that they're taking all the steps necessary to have you there. And then I'm going to come back to you for final thoughts. But let's watch the video.
I remember the first time I saw you.
You.
You came here on a school bus.
On the train.
You walked. You drove from Glendale,
The library,
down the street.
South Phoenix.
Milwaukee.
Mesa,
Nowhere in particular.
It was 1959,
1975.
Misa and Hachi,
96,
En el año pasado.
67,
The year of the monkey.
yesterday,
yesterday,
today.
I can't remember.
But I remember the way your face changed.
The way your eyes lit up, moved.
How you stopped.
stood,
Started to go.
Came back.
How you said, whoa, wow.
I don't get it.
I like that.
No me gusta.
Wow.
I love this.
I love this.
I loved this.
I remember each gallery, how you walked slowly.
When you sped up,
When you stayed behind to look.
What you skipped when you got it.
when you didn't,
When you loved.
When you fell in love. When you felt good here.
Happy here.
Alone here.
Solo aquí.
Small here.
Found here.
You. Here.
I remember when you moved through the dark, along the shore, in a windstorm.
in a place you forgot,
Through the stars. The stars.
The stars.
I'll never forget that.
I saw you,
how you changed,
How you've changed.
how you sang,
How you danced.
laughed,
Looked.
Linger.
left.
how you've grown,
How time shaped you.
broke you,
Built you.
bent you,
Starved you.
Filled you up.
Filled us up.
I saw you.
Your world, your life.
how it got bigger,
How it shrank.
When it was small.
When it started to slip away.
I saw you when you came to celebrate.
when you came together,
Together.
together, apart,
When you became a mom.
A partner.
something, someone,
Un abuelito.
a widow,
A sister.
Alone.
I saw you the first time.
Every time.
the last time,
I saw you.
You,
You.
You.
you. And you saw
everything.
That was the video, and I'm just full of emotions right now. I have to be totally honest with you.
Yeah, it's a beautiful video, isn't it? Nikki DeLeon Martin, who's on my team here, was the writer of that, and she worked with Chris Heck, who is the director, and he's a local filmmaker, and they just did an incredible job. It's a beautiful piece.
It's a beautiful piece. I'll give all the credits and the blog, and I will have the link and the video itself for people for the audience to watch it again. I felt myself represented on that video. And I have to say thank you to the Phoenix Art Museum for doing so.
Yeah, well, we really enjoyed making it, and even more, we've enjoyed presenting it to people. It's been really wonderful to watch their reactions. And I would just say one thing. One of the things that I love about that video is that it really is an attempt to present it from the point of view of the museum itself. It's about the museum looking at the community. And I think that at the end of the day, people need to keep in mind that no matter what happens at the Phoenix Art Museum in terms of the people coming and going, the reality is that this is an institution that belongs to the community. And it is something that is bigger than any individuals. And it is really something that has been built over time by so many people who have been incredibly generous. And I think that in a time like this, kind of showing support for not only the Phoenix Art Museum, but all nonprofits who have done so much good work over the years is really important.
Those are wise words. I wanted to ask you for closing words, and I think you just put an exponential number on top of what I was about to say. An incredible work, just from your position as a director to the community at large. Just final thoughts of how do you see the future and your final words for this broadcast to all of us.
Well, this is a very trying time for all of us, and we've talked about that, during this time together, Oscar. But I think it's really important for all of us to hold on to our optimism about the future. This is not the first crisis that human civilization's been through. If you look back in time, there's been so many, and there's been so many challenges, and yet the human spirit, the human intellect, the human soul is just so powerful. And we will get through this. We will be different as a result. It will have its impact, but we will come out on the other side, and we will have learned from this experience, because that's what we're here to do. We are all just learning and growing together through difficult times and happy times, and that's all it is.
This is where we are today. So it's already time to go. I appreciate very much your time with me for this long hour of a little bit of everything. This was just like salt and pepper and cooking just at 2:30. This is not my regular time to host the show, but I wanted to make sure that I spoke with you just through reopening of the museum. So thank you very much for your time, Tim.
Well, a pleasure. Thank you, Oscar. It's great to see you. Even if it's on a computer, it's still nice to see you.
Likewise, we will see you soon. And
Okay.
Say hello to Elizabeth, my BFF now.
I will.
All right, bye-bye, Tim. Bye-bye. So that was Tim Rodgers, CEO and director of the Phoenix Art Museum. Incredible words. And for all that I know, every person that I've talked to, they send the same message to all of us. Optimism. We will go through this, but together. So I'm going to leave you with those words. This was a special. I'm going to go back to my day today. I appreciate your time, your support, your comments. And if you need me, you know where to find me. And if you want to find me, ask your friends. How about that? So tomorrow at 8 p.m., we will have a regular Oscar Talks, Oscar Talk. So thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.